Hi guys, it's Debbie. It's time for me to speak about something very important. It's time for me to speak about one of the masterpieces of the 21st century, one of the milestones in the cinema industry. It's time for me to talk about one of those films we will one day watch with our grandchildren and nostalgically say, they just don't do them like this anymore. This is Independence Day Resurgence. Now basically there's this thing going on in Italy where every second Wednesday of the month you get to see any film you want in any cinema for €2, which is more or less the same amount in dollars or pounds, so say $2 or £2. So I went with my friends to see Independence Day, and you might say, well, you spent only €2, even if you didn't like it, that's not a big waste of money. No, I've never spent €2 so unwisely in my whole life. Now basically Independence Day comes 20 years later than the original film, in which, long story short, aliens invade the Earth. Now in the meantime, in these 20 years, the United Nations has created a defence and research organisation, and we use the alien technology knowing that sooner or later these aliens will return to Earth. As a matter of fact, 20 years later the aliens return, but they return with an unforeseen deadly force. So some of the characters from the first film, together with some new characters, fight to save the world from destruction. Now, I have nothing against sequels. Sequels are absolutely fine. The problem is that some sequels, like this film, tend to be stealth redos of the original film, trying to create something welcomely nostalgic but still action-packed. And this is definitely a hit or miss approach, and Independence Day Resurgence definitely missed it completely. So throughout the whole film, we do not have the fear the end of the world is near. We don't have that. We should be scared because the Earth will be destroyed and the human race will completely disappear from the face of Earth. But throughout the whole film, we just don't have this fear. Now what Independence Day Resurgence tried to do, like a lot of other sequels, it tried to make everything bigger. So more explosions and a bigger spaceship and bigger aliens and, ooh, we should be more scared. But in the end, throughout the whole film, we're never scared. We just sit there for 2 hours knowing that at the end of the film, the hero will come along at the last moment and will save the Earth with a one-liner to his girlfriend. We're never sitting on the edge of our seats like, oh, are they really going to manage? And wow, look at that scene. Throughout the whole film, there's not this. Independence Day Resurgence is in no way bigger than the original film. We have no fear for our fate. We have no fear of what is going to happen. Our world leaders simply take a joint decision about the world's fate in a matter of minutes. And when I say world leaders, I mean the leaders of the United States, China, maybe France, and somebody else, because, I mean, who cares about the rest of the world? Independence Day Resurgence also relies on that 90s nostalgia that's trending right now. So it brings back some characters from the first film, but there's not that, oh, let's get the band back together and let's fight against the aliens feeling. No. And the new characters acting is flat, forgettable, made of used cliches, lame jokes, and there's continuous forced exposition with continuous references to the first film. And the new characters are only defined based on their connection to the old characters, and the old characters are only there because of the emotional attachment we have for them. The dozens of characters are introduced incoherently, without a connection between one another. At different points throughout the film, we're still being introduced to new characters after 40 minutes into the film, with different degrees of importance. It was the same problem we had with Suicide Squad. There's no way you can introduce loads of characters thoroughly without having to compromise in some points. And also, we hardly see anything of the film outside the main character's points of view. We just mostly see the film through 3 or 4 points of view and nothing else, just some brief images from other people or from other points of the world. You might say, well, the film is visually impressive. Yeah, sure, you have 2 hours of an CGI overdose with fiery spaceships ploughing through the ocean. But without good acting, it's just 2 hours of visual effects. You need a charismatic leader. You need the kind of character Will Smith portrayed. That is definitely what Independence Day lacks of. Because, okay, even the first film was over the top. It had a lot of special effects and explosions and actions and America. But in addition to this, it had a good plot. It had good acting. In addition to all the action, there was also like the concept of love and family, and also comedy. What comedy do we have in Independence Day Resurgence? We have just these really lame jokes. And what is love? Love is just some comments towards Rain Lao. Rain Lao is actually portrayed by a Chinese model become actress, so that explains her impeccable acting. It's no secret that Hollywood is slowly starting to change in order to appeal to the booming Chinese box office. So films are slowly being reworked in order to appeal to the Chinese audience. But that doesn't mean that you have to push it into our faces. For example, the new Chinese technology QQ, which is an instant messenger system, is seen more than once throughout the film, and there is also product placement for Moon Milk by a Chinese milk company. So I understand that you have to appeal to a certain type of audience, but this is not just appealing to a certain type of audience, just pushing it. It's exaggerating it. There is going to be a third Independence Day, I know, and a lot of films today use that sort of sequel bait style, where basically you go to see a film which is not that good, but only with a promise that there'll be more films to follow. No, nothing wrong with doing a film to then start a series of new films, but that doesn't mean that you have to do a bad film. It's just like saying, guys, you know, this film wasn't great, but all the good parts are going to be in the next films. That's just making fun of the audience that's paying to go and see this film. And the worst thing is that you're not actually left with a curiosity about what's going to happen in the next films. I mean, at least in Suicide Squad, we had some clue that, you know, something interesting. We see the Joker entering into the prison at the end of the film. But in Independence Day Resurgence, the film just bluntly cuts off at the end of the film saying, you know, we're going to go into space and they're going to be aliens and we're going to fight them. Okay, do you mind to, you know, you can't just cut it off bluntly like that. You've got to leave us with something we want to see. And again, I repeat, we were supposed to be scared for the fate of the Earth. Instead, it just seemed like we were switching off our brains for 2 hours to see a series of things happening. Kids on a bus in the Nevada desert, aliens killed by the sword of an African warlord, people completely oblivious of the end of the world happening at 5 meters from their face, soldiers in space not responding to orders and just shaking it off with like, he hated me anyway. And again, like Suicide Squad and many other films nowadays, the editing is brutally done. So at some points we just jump from one scene to another, from one part of the world to the other, with no continuity between the scenes. In some parts of the film, everything is slowed down on really tedious aspects. In other scenes, the action is really sped up. So in Independence Day, we have continuity errors, we are following dozens of different storylines, we don't know which characters are important, which characters are not that important. But I suppose if you want to see an explosion-packed, CGI-fooled action movie full to the brim with speaking alien pods, 3,000-mile radius spaceships appearing out of nowhere, parts of Asia lifted from Asia and dropped over Europe, then this is the perfect film for you. Let me know what you thought about Independence Day, if it let you down, or if you loved it. And I'll see you soon in a new video. Bye!